I'm Felicia. I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals from the gray sheet. I write them down. I commit them to my loving sponsor each morning, the 3 meals I'm going to have. And I have those meals without exception with all of your help. I've been able to do that since 12/11/2022. So I have about a year and 2 months, which is amazing. It is a miracle. And I'm humbled because I thought about it today. I think about it a little bit every day about how humbled I have to be with this program. Um, I need meetings, I need people, I need to reach out, I need good food, I need scales, I need my tools, and I absolutely need God, a higher power to help me with this program. It's not me doing it, I tell you, and I'm so grateful to get to that point. That's very humbling. Because before I could get this program, when I was first introduced to it, that went straight through one ear and out the other because I didn't want to deal with people. Not at that level with my food. I come from AA, so I had some time in AA. In fact, that's how I was introduced to Gray Sheet. I was introduced to Gray Sheet in year 2000 after an AA meeting. And what we do for camaraderie in AA, if you've ever been there, we go out to eat, or we'll go have coffee, or go have some of the round things and sit around, because that's supposed to help curb the need to want to drink. And this particular person that came out of the meeting, another member from AA, came up to the coffee bar, and I asked her if she wanted to go out to have something to eat. And she said, I'm not eating in restaurants right now. And I had never heard that from an AA member. I had never heard that from anyone, that they're not eating in a restaurant right now. And I asked her why. She says, well, I weigh and measure my food. I mean, very clear about it. And I said, well, what is that about? She said, it's 12 steps. It's 12 steps like we use in Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's for the food, and it's recovery for me. And I know that I had been struggling with my weight in AA, because after getting sober in AA, I still didn't quite feel, that spiritual experience. I don't know if I wanted it to be light, but I know I didn't want to be as heavy. And I got heavier and heavier as I stayed sober. So I asked her, what did she do? And she told me where the meeting was. And this was in Houston, Texas. And I was curious enough to go to the meeting. Of course, when I got there, just like I did when I first got to AA, when I heard the woman at that was qualifying and saying that she was eating out of a garbage can, I said, oh my God, I was saying to myself, okay, I followed this person over here, but I know that this is not going to be something for me. But I continued to listen. And she said that she would go and buy, spend a lot of money on all of her binge foods, and get into her little isolated place and eat all of her food, and feel so much remorse that she would start throwing it all in the trash, all of the stuff that could melt and everything. She said, and the next morning she'll be picking through it to see what it was that she could save to eat out of the trash. So that's what she meant. And then I got something in my head that said, yes, I've done that before. So yeah, I have eaten out of the trash before. It was enough for me to know that there was something serious going on with my eating. As a teenager, my mom I listened to my father say something about my mom's body once, and it just stuck with me. That was about 12, before I turned 15, before I got into my teens. He told her she was fat and he wished that she would lose weight, and look at you, she was eating something. But what I remembered is that I looked at her face, and when I looked at her face, it was just like crushed. My mother's face was just crushed. And my father just went on into another room after he had insulted her like that. And I remember my thought was, I never want to fall in love, because my mother didn't do anything about it, just sit there and kind of sulk. And I also got the message that I don't want anyone saying anything about my body. I don't want anybody judging my body, especially guys, because it was like, that really will crush you. So that went on. That's when I realized that I believe the voice started talking at that point. And I just got in touch with that since I've been abstinent and been working the steps and talking with share partners and things like that. It kind of started there. So I decided that I wanted to be a school teacher, and I took off for college after high school. But when I was in high school, there was this one boy, how teenagers try to court. He used to call me Thunder Thighs all the time, and he used to run around the school behind me, Thunder Thighs, calling that as my name. He was flirting with me. I realize that now, but it was just humiliating for him to do that. And I couldn't stand this boy. So anyway, I went off to college to be a teacher. And I had a dining room card like all freshmen and everybody that comes to school, and you can use that card to eat as much as you want, like buffet style. And so I used to go, and there were signs in there saying, "Not you're not supposed to take the food out," but I would find ways to sneak the food out. Now, all of this is kind of coming up for me since I've been abstinent because I've been working on my inventory and looking at my life. Um, and so I managed to gain a lot of weight in college. I remember my ankles started to hurt when I was doing my student teaching, and I had to walk around the children and do the things that teachers do. But I always had snacks. I had snacks in my desk drawer, and those were like rewards to the kids, believe it or not, the sugar. And I ate just as much as they ate. You know, you have 27 kids. Every time you get a 27, you eat 27 pieces. And so I started to really gain weight and, continue teaching school. Now I was still sober. That kind of blended in with my recovery. And so after I got this meeting after I taught for a while, I think I started to have my, what do they call it? Hit your bottom. I started to hit my bottom right after the breakup of a relationship because I just isolated it and I ate. And really during the pandemic, I really hit my bottom during the pandemic. I was reading something from the big book because we use the big book, and I'll just read this really quickly. It's from the housewife who drank at home. To say, I never knew which came first, the thinking or the drinking. If I could only stop thinking, I wouldn't drink. If I could only stop drinking, maybe I wouldn't think. But they were all mixed up together, and I was all mixed up inside, and yet I had to have that drink. The deteriorating effects, the disintegrating effects of chronic wine drinking. I cared nothing about my personal appearance. And it goes on and on. And when I read this, when I came into these rooms this time, for some reason, I was like, that's my story right there. I was, after COVID, inside my apartment, having food delivered, going out, risking with the face mask and everything to get food. And that was my comfort, the food. And that was my bottom. That was my bottom. What happened was life just changed for me. I had a sibling that passed away during the pandemic, and my parents started to age. He was one of their primary caretakers, so I was the only one left besides another sibling that was available to move in and help caretake my parents. So that was difficult to do for me because I had to uproot and move to the town that I grew up in. So I ended up moving with my parents. And while I was caretaking, I reached out to someone that I had met in GreySheet early on and asked her to be my sponsor. And she said, now they do a lot of Zoom meetings. You should get on a Zoom meeting. Contempt project investigation. So I found the Zoom meetings and I got on a Zoom meeting and I listened. And she said, just listen, check in, say that it's day one. Just say that if you can. So I did just that. Everybody that spoke, I just kind of sat there and just listened to see what I could hear. And I started to hear things that meant something to me, to my heart and my spirit. And I got abstinent. I called in my food. I showed up for meetings. I probably did about 7 or 8 meetings a day because I didn't want to trust myself to even not be on the meetings. And I was able to do that and still take care of my parents, thank God. And that's how I got abstinent this time. Lots of meetings, willingness, wanting to reach out to people, asking for help. When they told me that you can call if you make a mistake or you want to do an exchange, I call, I never do anything with the food that I want to do by myself because that's willfulness. That's one of my character defects. So I use this tool all the time. I keep it on my desk. I'm glad we have small ones and we have larger ones. This is a little folder for the GreySheet. It's got everything on it and it has the 12 steps on it and it comes with a sponsor. So I use it a lot to look for foods, and it's amazing after a year, some of the foods that I'm finding on there are so much more delicious. It's like I keep finding delicious food on the GreySheet. At first it was so bland, and now I look at it and I go, oh my goodness, this would be nice to have for a meal. And I can have it. It's all mine because it's on my GreySheet. God and this program have given me the steps to live my life on a different spiritual path. And it is a spiritual path with this precious gift. And, the first step for me is that it had me down. The food had me completely crushed. I came to believe that a power greater than myself when I came in these rooms and I was willing to do what my sponsor asked me to do. Listen, pray, do the meetings, reach out to 3 people every day. I made a
5
decision.
minutes.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. I made a decision to turn my will and life over to the care of God as I understood him, and that's always ongoing. I do meditation. I do the 11th step. I try to have a personal relationship with my God, but it begins with a meeting. Every morning when I first wake up, I pray, get on the meeting, and once I get on the meeting, then I do my meditation, I get my food and everything ready. The 4th step is I always have to look at my life. I do, and it's not as critical as it was. I love my thighs. They're not thunder thighs. They're beautiful thighs. And I love them today. The 5th step, I admit to God and to another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. I do that through my step work, share partners with my sponsor. Sometimes I have to do it because I know that I get upset with my parents sometimes, and I know that I don't like my behavior. So I do that. I'm entirely ready to have God remove all of the defects of character because I do want to be free. And humbling, I have to stay humble because when I start to lose weight, I start to feel a little bit grandiose. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but it's people go, "Oh, you got that gray sheet glow." And I go, "Oh, yes," and I want to forget. I will forget. So it's always good for me to come back and know that I am a compulsive, down and dirty eater. I make a list of all the persons I've harmed, became willing to make amends to them all. I did a lot of that in my AWOL work, and I try to fix it. So I made direct amends to people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Some of them are living amends, some of them are verbal or written. Continue to take personal inventory every day. Before I lay down, I just thank God and say, I have the gift. Thank you, God, for the gift. And then things start to come up that I can think about my day. And I'm always praying and meditating. I meditate throughout the day. I feel like I meditate even when I get in a meeting because my brain gets quiet and I can actually listen and hear God. And the last thing, having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, I try to carry the message to other compulsive overeaters whenever I can. Service work is important. I'm involved in that. It keeps me abstinent, and I'm meeting some really, really wonderful spiritual people. Thank you for letting me come in and check in tonight. Thank you very much.